A large storm that's looming out there, Hurricane Irma. Let's listen.
Commissioner Jean Monestein, and I will introduce everyone who's up here. Commissioner Jean Monestein has offered to provide Creole remarks for Mayor Giménez, and Mayor Giménez will also be introducing Superintendent Alberto. I'll start from left, our Vice Chairwoman of the County Commission, Audrey Edmondson, our Superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, Mayor Carlos A. Giménez, I did not see you, Commissioner Jose Pepe Diaz from Miami-Dade County, our Commission Chairman Esteban Bobo, Commissioner Jean Monestein, Commissioner Dennis Moss, Commissioner Rebecca Sosa, and Commissioner Daniela Levine Cava. If you can, please silence your phones. Hold all questions. We've got to get through the mayor and the superintendent before we get to any questions. Also, I made the announcement last year. There was one station that cut out the interpreter. Please do not cut out the sign language interpreter from the shot. There are residents that need to see what it is that she is doing. Thank you very much, Mayor Giménez.
Thank you. Hurricane Irma poses a serious threat to Florida, South Dade, and our area in particular. Unlike other hurricanes where we do a wait and see, take a wait and see what the hurricane is going to do, this hurricane is far too powerful, poses far too great a threat for us to delay actions any longer. And so I prefer to inconvenience our residents by ordering evacuations ahead of time rather than see any loss of life. The potential is too great for us not to take action right now. At 12:30 this afternoon, I signed a declaration of local emergency here in Miami-Dade County. I have directed the Miami-Dade County Operations Center to be at level 1 activation. That's basically an all-hands-on-deck activation. Residents should have 3 days of food and water and the basic needs. The county tap water is safe to use, so I know that there are a lot of food stores that have run out of water. Just open your tap. It's safe to drink, and hopefully will be safe to drink after, if any potential storm arrives. We may be asking residents, and I'd say may be asking residents in evacuation zones A and B to begin evacuation as early as tomorrow. Residents can find out if they live in evacuation zone by visiting www.miamidade.gov or by calling 311. We will begin evacuating special needs residents tomorrow morning. EOC staff is already beginning a call down of those individuals and trying to place them, and will be placing them tomorrow. Shelters are available, but they should be a last resort. Friends and family are the best, but you also need to look at, so you need to have your preparations done of where you will go if in fact we order evacuations. And because of the strength of the storm, additional evacuations out of zone A and B may be necessary. That's why we are already taking the steps to initiate evacuations for special needs and the possible ordering of evacuations early on Thursday, either late Wednesday or early Thursday. I encourage those who do seek county shelters to bring everything they need to be comfortable at a shelter. They need mats, blankets, food for special diets, games for kids, etc. We do have pet shelters that will be open. Support your family and neighbors with their preparedness needs. Fill up your gas tanks, check your generators, stock up on any necessary prescription medication. I've spoken to the superintendent who's here, and he will be making announcements about school closures after our presentation. I am ordering all county offices to close Thursday and Friday. All non-essential personnel will not need to come to work. I'm also requesting that all of our visitors that are here in Miami-Dade County on their vacations should consider cutting their vacations short. Residents who need evacuation or special needs assistance and who are not already on the county's registry will be assigned assistance. Please call 311 so we can put you on the registry. Normal Metro Bus, Metro Rail, and Metro Mover services are in effect today. The hours, Miami-Dade Transit operates until tropical storm force winds are felt, which could be as early as late Friday or it could be early Saturday. All waste services will continue as normal until tropical storm force winds are in effect. We ask our residents, please do not start trimming your trees now. It's too late. We need to now go and pick up all of the trash that's on our streets so that they don't become flying projectiles if, in fact, we take a hit from Hurricane Irma. For information on county services, please visit www.miamidade.gov and visit the county's social media handles at Miami-Dade County on Twitter and Miami-Dade County on Facebook. 311 is always a resource, but please know that due to heavy call volumes, there will be wait times. That is why I encourage everybody to visit our website, www.miamidade.gov. And as I stated earlier, this is a powerful storm which poses a serious threat to our area. And we will be taking some extraordinary actions to assure that the residents of Miami-Dade County are safe. And as I stated before, I would rather inconvenience our residents on this occasion than suffer any unnecessary loss of life if, in fact, we are hit by Hurricane Irma. It's still too early to tell if we're going to take a direct hit from this hurricane, but there's a high probability that we will feel the effects of this storm sometime Saturday and Sunday. So we're hoping for the best, hope that Irma misses us. But because of the strength and intensity of the storm, we need to take action, and we need to take action now. And so now I'll have some comments in Spanish. Es posible la tormenta Irma es un riesgo muy grande para nuestra comunidad. Es una tormenta muy poderosa.
All right, so while Mayor Giménez is speaking in Spanish, I'll just go over what he just said. This is Lynn Martinez in the Newsplex, by the way. What you're listening to is a live news conference there at the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. Mayor Giménez went over several main points, as he does before any storm, let alone this large storm that's looming to the right there, as you see this live picture of the radar. He indicated that, reminded residents in Miami-Dade County, and this is good for everybody, really, we need to have 3 days of food and water, at least 3 days of food and water. And if you've been at grocery stores today, it has been nuts. But he also reminded us that, we can still use our tap water right now. So if you have any empty jugs, if you have any containers, just, fill them up and put them in your refrigerator, put them in your freezer, or even put them on your counter and stock up on water. Again, he reminded us to have 3 days of food and water. Mayor Giménez also said that there will be an evacuation of areas A and B as early as tomorrow. A and B will be evacuated possibly as early as tomorrow. And of course, if you're unclear about where A and B is, all you have to do is log on to miamidade.gov, and it explains all of the evacuation areas, pretty much everything east of US 1. But go to this website, it explains everything. So there may be evacuations in order tomorrow. He also said they will be evacuating people who have special needs residents tomorrow in the morning. He also requested visitors to consider cutting their vacation short. He wants to make sure that everybody who is not supposed to be here is not here. Mayor Giménez also indicated, of course, we know this, when tropical storm force winds are upon us, the Metro Rail will be halted and the Metro Mover will be halted. Right now, things are operating as normally, but that could change tomorrow. And also, he reminded us not to trim our trees. Now is not the time to go out and start trimming large branches, because garbage trucks are now going around trying to get all the debris off of lawns, and now is not the time to trim. And again, this is miamidade.gov for any more information on this website. He said, in his words, a powerful storm poses serious threats to our area. And I think meteorologist Brent Cameron would agree with that. He's joining me right now. He's going to talk a little bit. And Brent, as soon as he goes back to English, we're going to interrupt you. But tell us where the storm is right now. You just got the 2 o'clock advisory.
That's right, Lynn. The 2 o'clock advisory is in. The system is still removed from the islands. We're talking about the northernmost Lesser Antilles, also referred to, of course, as the Leeward Islands, and those will be impacted by this major Category 5 hurricane, which has gotten a little bit stronger. If you were watching at 11 o'clock, this number, the maximum sustained wind number, was at 180 miles per hour. That was impressive in its own. Right now, it's been upgraded as of this hour to 185. That is a unusually high number, and that is due to the fact that this has taken on some rapid intensification since yesterday, and now looks like a big buzzsaw approaching, still in the Atlantic, approaching the islands. There you see those far eastern islands that divide into the Caribbean. So that is what we are focusing on now. Powerful Irma, looking impressive, and nothing is really expected to slow it down or to weaken the system, at least in the short run, as it has plenty of warm water ahead. So it is a Category 5 system. It is moving off generally to the west. This will be the trend over the next couple of days. Through Wednesday, notice this wind strength. The forecast winds expected to come down slightly. Take that with a grain of salt. We're not sure exactly about some intensity fluctuation that could occur with this powerful 5 hurricane. But what we do know, the impacts are going to be very great, felt across the Leeward Islands, near Puerto Rico later into the week, and then eventually very close to Hispaniola, near perhaps Cuba or points north. And of course, we focus on South Florida, but also focus on the fact that look at how wide the cone gets. So this is a system that may be approaching eventually the Gulf of Mexico. It may also take a little bit of a turn and start to move northward in the Atlantic. It's just too far out. We don't know at this point. What we do know, if you're in this red shaded area, which includes all of South Florida, we need to have those preparations in place. Don't wait until it's too late, because this is a powerful system, as mentioned. So areas in red are under a hurricane warning. These warnings, these advisories will continue to spread westward as necessary as the hurricane continues to churn along. So these are given in advance. Notice in yellow, as far west now as the Turks and Caicos, soon to be the southeastern Bahamas. These are watches, hurricane watches, that are issued about 48 hours in advance. Those will most likely turn into warnings in another day or so. It also includes this watch for a hurricane, the northern coast of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and then back toward the island of Puerto Rico, including San Juan, under a warning at this point, along with the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. So in the short run, this is what we're looking at. Heavy rain on the order of more than a foot. Places like Puerto Rico, that is the latest forecast. Here we are, Virgin Islands, upwards of maybe a foot of rain. Even more than that, places like Barbuda, Anguilla, watching as that system gets close to them in the next 24 to 48 hours. So rains, the high storm surge, and here is what the latest model tracks say. These are going to be changing throughout the day today with each model run, so that gives us another reason to pay close attention at how this is progressing. The latest thoughts by all these models after lots of information is fed into each and every one. Notice the consensus going into the southern Bahamas. There is a good consensus, a good 3 days out or so. Then they spread out. Just like that cone I showed you just a moment ago, there's more uncertainty. There you see one of the outliers moving into the Gulf of Mexico and moving north. We would still have an impact due to the large, strong system, most likely, if it were to take that, even that track, but maybe not as great of an impact, you would think, as a direct strike. We just don't know, and here's what we do know that we need to plan for. Plan for the potential of a very powerful hurricane moving into our area. Conditions start to deteriorate beginning Friday night into Saturday, and then we will start to fill in the blanks, and that will mean maybe some better idea of how much rain we can see here in South Florida, wind and storm surge as the week progresses. Again, that is going to be mostly focused on the Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even Monday time frame. We have plenty of hours left, days yet, to continue to follow this, but use the time wisely. That's the very latest. We'll have more on Irma throughout the day.
Okay, Brent, thank you so much. And again, we go back to this news conference with the Emergency Operations Center. They're now speaking in Creole. And just to reiterate what Brent said, basically, and we know this from being on the road, now is the time to prepare. It sounds like the storm, whether it hits us directly or indirectly or God willing, doesn't come at all, now's the time to prepare, because this is going to be a weekend event, a weekend storm. And again, just to reiterate also what the mayor said a few minutes ago, we all know this, but it bears repeating, have 3 days worth of food and water, and non-perishable foods are great as well. Evacuations will begin tomorrow. And now let's go back and listen to Mayor Giménez.
Concerning our school system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon. This is a storm that cannot and should not be ignored. Packing winds as high as 185 miles an hour. In an abundance of caution and after careful consideration and conversation with the county leadership, including our Mayor Carlos Giménez, after a conversation with Governor Rick Scott, we have decided to err on a side of caution and declare schools to be closed both Thursday and Friday. In fact, after the last students are dismissed tomorrow, which will take place at 4:05 p.m., all school activities, including extracurricular activities, athletic activities, as well as adult and night school, shall be canceled tomorrow night. And again, all activities countywide in all public schools across Miami-Dade will be shut down, canceled for Thursday and Friday. Information regarding the reopening of the school system will be provided through mass media as well as media communications throughout the weekend. It is important for the workforce to know that only essential personnel and those will be called directly will be expected to work Thursday and possibly Friday, meaning the vast majority of the workforce is to stay at home and prepare for this storm. Tomorrow, after 4:05, the only educational programs that will be open throughout the county are after-school care programs for the very young. These programs will run on the basis of their regularly scheduled hours. We're asking parents to pick up their children on time tomorrow at the after-school care programs. Absolutely important. We are ready to declare a state of emergency district-wide to exercise our due rights under FEMA reimbursements, which we expect to take full advantage of in light of the possible destruction that could be imposed on our community. Restoring schools and education as quickly as possible shall continue to be our top priority. Mensaje en español: estamos muy preocupados con el potencial de destrucción.
Okay, this is always the number one question we get here in the newsroom at Channel 7. People calling us, is there school, is there school, is there school? And you just heard there from the superintendent of Miami-Dade County Schools that they are going to, quote, err on the side of caution, and there will be no school for Miami-Dade County Public Schools Thursday and Friday in anticipation of this storm coming this weekend. He also indicated there will be no extracurricular activities. However, the after-school program for the very young will be open tomorrow night. Mr. Carvalho also encouraged parents and caregivers to pick up their young children on time tomorrow night. He also mentioned only essential personnel are expected to show up to work with the Miami-Dade County Public Schools Thursday and Friday, and they will be notified personally. So he's either going to reach out to them via email or cell phone. He also mentioned that they are ready to declare a state of emergency when needed. This would also, of course, give them access to FEMA funds right away in case any schools are damaged. So they're definitely already putting their plans in place and encouraging teachers and administrators to use Thursday and Friday to prepare for this storm. Again, they're erring on the side of caution. There is no school for Miami-Dade County Public Schools Thursday and Friday. There are no extracurricular activities as well. There is the after-school program for the very young. It will be open until tomorrow night. And parents and guardians are urged to pick up your children on time tomorrow night, probably so everybody else can get out of there and also make their personal plans. And only essential personnel are going to be working Thursday and Friday. And after that, it's up in the air, because if this is a weekend storm, We'll have to see how the schools fare, see what there is any damage, any flooding, to see which schools will be opened up. So he said to stay tuned to social media and to media like Channel 7 to see when school will resume. Kids will be happy, I'm sure. Yay, no school Thursday and Friday, but it's also a great time to help out your parents with preparation. And as Mayor Giménez said at the beginning of this news conference, at least, honestly, 3 days of food and water. Evacuations will begin as early as tomorrow, especially with A and B sections. Now let's go back to this news conference.
Mr. Superintendent, are there any questions? Yeah.
What is the status of first responders right now? Have they gone to a 12-on, 12-on?
No, not yet. We will, closer to the storm, we will go to Alpha Bravo, but that's not necessary right now. We will bring in the necessary personnel that we need in order to get our special needs residents into shelter. The reason that we're taking this action and this far in advance is that the flood models and actually the damage models are really based on the intensity of the storm. This is a very, very powerful and intense storm. This storm doesn't appear to be weakening in any way, shape, or form. And if it does, the latest forecasts say it's going to be a major hurricane, Category 4, maybe even Category 5, when it's in our area. And so that changes the dynamics of everything. We may have to order additional evacuation in additional zones depending on the information that we get later in the week. That's why we have to be ahead of this and not be behind it. Also, I want to remind everybody that we expect massive evacuations from Monroe County, as they are really right now in the middle of this cone. And so everybody who evacuates Monroe County goes through Miami-Dade. And so that creates an additional burden for our resources here in Miami-Dade, and that's why we need the additional time in order to make sure that our residents are safe.
Any other questions, or should I bring them around?
Yeah.
Can you just clarify, if you live in A or B, hear this news, you should expect a possible order Wednesday morning. What's the rules for that order? Do you have to leave? Is it advisory?
Yeah, we have an evacuation order. It's an order for you to leave. However, we're not going to have police officers coming in your door and telling you to leave. That's not something that we do. We would certainly show you the risk of why it is important for you to leave and evacuate in zones A and B. But what we're saying is get prepared. Prepare now. That order is probably coming either late Wednesday or early Thursday, based on the best information that we have. If Hurricane Irma does something unexpected and the threat diminishes, that obviously we're not going to issue those orders. But we need to do that because there's also a strong possibility that we will be issuing evacuation orders for areas beyond Zone A and B. And so, we can't have everybody evacuating at the same time. Miami-Dade County, unfortunately, is not a very good place to evacuate from. You can only go basically north. We don't have 365 degrees that we can disperse. We can only disperse north. So it takes a long time for us to evacuate the area, and then also some of those folks may want to evacuate the area, but what we're saying is, look, we will have shelters open, but the best option is family, friends in a non-evacuation zone area. La decisión es basada en los modelos que tiene el centro de huracán.
Okay, so that was really important that Mayor Giménez just said. He's taking questions and answers, by the way, from the media, and this is actually a question in Spanish, but before that he was asked about evacuations, and he reminded us that, they're not going to go door to door saying, you got to get out, you got to get out. They don't have the resources for that. So when there is an evacuation in order, mandatory evacuation, it's essentially saying, you're on your own if you stay in your home or your apartment or wherever you're at. if you call 911, they're not going to be able to come and get you. So evacuations are very, very important. And to reiterate, he mentioned at the beginning of this news conference, they will be evacuating as early as tomorrow areas A and B. And if you're unsure if you live in an evacuation area or what A and B looks like, all you have to do is go to their website, miamidade.gov. And he also mentioned that there's going to be a massive evacuation going on with Monroe County. And of course, we know Monroe, the Keys, the only way to evacuate is north, pretty much everybody using the same road. So that's going to take quite a lot of resources. And again, when tropical storm force winds hit, that's really when people will be making moves, and Metro Rail and Metro Mover will not be working then when there's tropical storm force winds. All right, let's go back and listen.
Ustedes en los centros de medios de comunicación van a poner.
Okay. Pardon me. Okay, yes, he's back in Spanish. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can understand Spanish, but just for all of our listeners right now, I want to repeat that the superintendent of Miami-Dade County Schools just spoke, and he said he's erring on the side of caution. There is no school Thursday and Friday. All right, somebody else is asking another question. Let's listen to the answer.
Segundo, evacuar a esas personas.
All right, I spoke too soon. Also, speaking of schools, there is no extracurricular activity at all for the rest of the week, except for after-school programs for the very young. They will be open tomorrow night, and they're encouraging parents and caregivers to pick up their kids promptly tomorrow night. But there is no school from Miami-Dade County Thursday and Friday. The kids will be happy. Parents might feel a little better about having their kids back in the nest. They can properly prepare, and only essential personnel who work with the Miami-Dade County Public School System will be asked to report to work Thursday and possibly Friday. And the superintendent indicated that those people will be notified via telephone or via email directly. So everybody else is encouraged to prepare. And what does that mean? Right now, it's still not too late to get the essentials for your home and for your apartment and for yourself and for your family, and that is bread, peanut butter, jelly, water, gas. Be patient at the gas lines. This is not a time, Mayor Giménez brought up a very good point earlier, it's not a time to trim your trees. And it's also not a time to freak out. If you've been on the road today, like many of us have, there's just an energy out there where people are very, very anxious. And we heard from Publix and other large supermarkets last night during the 10 o'clock news, and they indicated, yeah, you may not see any water on the shelves now, but there is still time, believe it or not, for more shipments to come in. So don't worry if you go to a store and they don't have your particular item that you want. There will be additional shipments in the next coming days. You can also use empty jugs to open up your water. Obviously, your water is fine now. Fill up now. It's free, and that's another great way to prepare. So we still have a couple of days. We heard from Brent a few minutes ago, explain in detail where this hurricane is. It's now a 5. He calls it a buzzsaw. It certainly is circulating like a buzzsaw. All right, let's go back and listen to
no BCC, no budget hearing on Thursday. El presidente de la comisión ha cancelado.
Okay, so he's basically saying all the budget meetings are off, and this is sort of understood when there's a large storm that's looming and schools are closing and only essential personnel are reporting to work. So all these extra things like budget meetings are going to be canceled, and these are just basic questions that the media are asking our mayor in terms of planning purposes. So this is going to be a weekend storm, Brent just indicated, and it looks like this is the end of the EOC news conference here, and it's going to be a weekend storm, Saturday, Sunday, but we still have time to watch it, and we're going to be talking to Phil Farrow and Brent Cameron throughout the evening, and we'll have more as it warrants. I'm Lynn Martinez. Thanks for listening and joining us. Now back to programming.
This has been a 7 News Weather Alert. We now rejoin regularly scheduled programming.